is up, everybody? As I always say, it's a special day. Free agency, the legal tampering period just started today. Nothing's official until Wednesday, but man, we had some moves today. I am your host, Nico Chambers. Nico the Draft Guy, you can call me, alongside my co-host, P Dunn. P Dunn, what's up, man?
Dude, today hit like a train. I mean, if you didn't have your phone on you for 10 minutes, you were opening it and something brand new happened. I mean, it was thing after thing after thing. There's so much to get into today. I am super excited for this one.
We're going to show you everything, all the landing spots of all the guys who got signed today, of our top 12 at each position. And we'll also fill you in on where guys who didn't get signed today should be going or landing spots that we think are perfect for them. It's so much with this free agency and so much heavy things happen today. So we just have to get straight into it. The first graphic that we will be showing you is the guys who were cut and the main list of guys: Tua going to the Falcons, Rashad Gary in a trade going to the Cowboys, and Tremaine Edmonds to the Giants. Pete, we'll talk about Tua really quick. How do you feel about the Tua signing to the Falcons?
It's interesting. You now have two quarterbacks that are left-handed that have injury problems. And so there's some similarities there. You like the congruity in the offense and the way the offense runs. Left-handed to left-handed, it's always good to have a left-handed backup so the offense doesn't shift in case the starter gets hurt. It's going to be fascinating to see who they start because like right now, without putting much into thought into it, it's 50-50. Like, wouldn't shock me completely split either way. Would not be shocked at all if Tua starts or if Penix starts. So that is definitely going to be something I'm super, super excited for going into camp.
For all the guys looking from the YouTube at the graphics here, this was something that obviously Tua was cut this morning, and we had to quickly throw in our landing spots for him. And you see Nico and Pete on the screen and a check mark next to Nico. That's because I predicted him to go to the Falcons after that cut. I think it's a really good move for them. Like you said, the two lefties in a system is very good for the offense as a whole because of, the quarterback tendencies to roll out a different way than a righty. And that is really important with wide receivers. And obviously you have a star receiver there already, but they supplemented him well this free agency so far. We'll get into that in a week or so about what they did. Really quickly though, Pete, on Rashad Gary or Tremaine Edmonds, which move are you more excited about?
Tremaine Edmonds with the Giants, I feel like I'm the most excited about. I'm excited to see what he can do behind that defensive line, and the way that he can play in that system. The Giants, could use a linebacker like him, and I'm excited to see how he plugs in. I feel like that's a really good fit for him.
Of course, they cut their middle linebacker, Bobby Okereke. He's number 12 on this list, but they replace him with an even better player, in my opinion. We'll move on to the quarterbacks, and obviously Daniel Jones was a check mark for both of us. That was very consensus, but a guy who got a bag today was Malik Willis. We both predicted it early on, but
Yeah.
Pete, how do we feel about Malik Willis going to the Dolphins?
This has always been the spot for him. It's always been the ideal landing spot. As soon as his name kind of got circulated around, like this dude's going to get paid this offseason, it felt like he was going to end up in the Dolphins. There was some talks of him going other places, but seeing through that and understanding he wanted to be a Dolphin, head coach going there, GM going there, like they needed a new quarterback, a refreshing scene. And I could not be more excited for them on their side of things. And I think it's also going to be really good for him to have another chance at starting one that I think is going to bode him a lot better than it did when he was in Nashville.
I see number 3 on this board. It's Aaron Rodgers. He went unsigned today. I'm a little shocked. I thought he was definitely going back to the Steelers. Is there a world where he is not a Steeler next year?
No, I think he's either retiring or he's going to end up in the Steelers again. And again, I agree with you. I would be shocked if it's the end of this week and we don't have an announcement that he's going to be returning for the Steelers this year.
We got a few more veterans on the list, of course, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and Joe Flacco. I really see Kirk Cousins being a Las Vegas Raider. Obviously, when Kubiak was in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins was the guy, and there were numerous years there in Minnesota. I think Russell Wilson could be a really strong starter in a Patrick Mahomes role on a minimum deal for that Chiefs team while Mahomes is healing from his knee injury. I had Joe Flacco going to the Falcons. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. Pete, are there any landing spots for these guys on the right side of the screen that you would really pinpoint?
Hmm. That's interesting. I'd say my sleeper here is Lance to the Jets. I feel like if they're going to give somebody a shot and they're not going to end up with Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson, who are the those 4, 5, 6, those are the vets that you trust to have a decent enough season for you next year. Lance is that guy that I think they're like, you know what? Let's just give a shot to the kid. He played. Everybody knows how good he played in preseason. Everybody knows the whole story behind him. The massive upside didn't work out with the 49ers, moving around since then. So maybe that's somebody that the Jets end up going. I could see them signing Lance and Garoppolo or Lance and Taylor or Lance and Flacco and, having a battle to start the season. I would love to see the Jets get their hands on him.
Two former Jets are on this list at number 10 and number 12, technically. I think Zach Wilson is going to be a Packer, fill in that Malik Willis role, maybe learn a little bit behind Jordan Love, try to revive the career in a Sam Darnold-esque way. I've seen so many of the Jimmy Garoppolo comparisons here to the Arizona Cardinals, and to me, it's more and more likely. Obviously, Mike LaFleur is there now. Um, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes. This quarterback class will be definitely interesting. Obviously, we had other guys on the other graphic. And while we're talking about the quarterbacks, we'll talk about the two on that other graphic. We have Kyler Murray and Geno Smith on the board. Are there two spots for you that you're really looking at?
I for sure thought we'd see Kyler the Jets today. That was one of the things I was the most confident in that was going to end up happening. I think a lot of people kind of have telegraphed that the way that they did Malik Willis to the Dolphins, and it didn't end up happening. So I'm not sure where he's going to end up because I'm not. It's like we've talked about. He's such a unique skill set, and it's not a guy like any of most of the other quarterbacks on the list that can play in any system, do anything you ask him to, game manage really well. He's not a game manager, and so these lower tier quarterbacks that aren't necessarily going to get paid the top dollar. Most of these franchises like to take the safer bet rather than the high upside variance of Kyler Murray. And so I still think he's going to be a Jet. I still think he's going to end up there. Geno, um, I could see him going to the Cardinals. I could see him possibly reuniting with the Jets if they don't end up landing Kyler. I think he's going to try to start this year. I think he's going to try to ride out the high that he had with the Seahawks. It's still crazy that he got paid more money than Sam Darnold did last year. I can't believe it.
It's unbelievable. I think that Geno, after all of this, and I know I was so high on Kyler going to the Jets, but they would have made the trade beforehand, before free agency, if that was really going to be the case. I think Geno's going to end up a Jet, and I think Kyler Murray is going to be a Viking. I just have a feeling that he's going to go
Yeah.
to the quarterback whisperer, Kevin O'Connell, and he is going to revive his career there. That's a really, really, really good system, a really underrated offense that he can go in and thrive the same way Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold did. We'll move in
Yep.
here to the running backs. And man, it was a day for
It
the running
was.
backs in some really good spots. We have to talk about it. Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. Pete, and I want to hear your first thoughts.
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind was, okay, so this means no Jeremiah Love. This changes a lot of the draft aspect of things. It means that I don't think he was going to make it to 9. I think the Chiefs are starting to see that too, that they would have had to give up some capital to go get Jeremiah Love. You obviously are in a winning window every single year when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. They are in the perfect spot to pay a running back top dollar like they just did. It's a dream fit for Walker. It's a dream fit for the Chiefs. I like it a lot. What do you think? Are you sad? What was your reaction when it popped up on your phone?
When we didn't tag him, I wasn't expecting him to come back on a different deal. And then when I saw the price tag at 3 years and $43 million, I'm happy for him. He deserves it. He 100% earned that after how he played in the playoffs. However, we do have bigger needs on the Seahawks front that we needed to address, like we did today, like you'll see later in these graphics. But, at the end of the day, it sucks because I think he is a top 10 running back in the league that we just lost. But running backs are a dime a dozen, and we got a really good draft of them. Can we supplement it in different ways? And obviously, Charbonnet is hurt. So you're going to have to probably double dip here, in my opinion. They should have double dipped. I'll talk about a guy that I think that they're going to get here in the next few days. I think Brian Robertson Jr., you bring in the 49ers guy as your OC. I think Brian Robertson is going to come. I really was interested to see what they did with Algier because that's a very similar skill set to Charbonnet, but he ended up being an Arizona Cardinal today. It's a really underrated move for them. Yeah, it's a sad day to see Kenneth Walker go, but I'm super happy for him. That's just how it has to be. We'll look down the list here. Rico Dowdle was a player I called going to the Steelers. Really, really good move for them. I'm super happy for him in that system. Steelers move on from Kenneth Gainwell, and he ends up becoming a Buck. But you have Travis Etienne go to the Saints, and Pete, how does that fit for you? Obviously, they have Kamara, they have a bunch of younger running backs. Is that a good move in your mind?
It just feels like another guy in that room. I don't, it feels like it just congests the room more than it needed to be. You have you had a serviceable running back room, and you just added a serviceable back for a lot of money for that price tag. And so, um, again, I don't know if they're in a window to pay the money that they're giving to him. I don't know if he's the back that's worth that right now. Anytime you can make your young quarterback more comfortable, do it. I assume that I know he's going to be a good player for him. I can for sure see a 700, 800 yard season, with, nine touchdowns. Could see it, give some stuff out of the passing game, but everything I just said is what Kamara does. And you just got paid another guy. You're already paying Kamara big money, and now you're paying him big money. I don't love the move from a team building perspective, but it's going to work on the field on Sundays, which is, always the end goal. I like the Dobbins move. I like the contract, 2 years, $20 million. Makes a lot of sense for both sides. He played well this season. It's not a long-term deal. You can get out of it after this season. I always think the 2 to 3 year deal is the sweet spot. I think when you're at two, you can get out after one season. When you're at three, it makes it a little tougher to get out, and especially when you're paying a second contract running back, that's always the thing you got to look out for. So I like the 2 year deal. I like the $20 million, about 10 years. I really like the Broncos re-signing Dobbins.
It was a really good day to be a running back in the NFL. For sure. We'll move on to the wide receivers, which is a little bit slower today, but we still had some very notable names. Obviously, George Pickens was tagged. We saw that coming. Alec Pierce receiving a massive bag, first move of the day for the Colts. Was this an overpay? I mean, what was it? 4 years, 120 million?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, this is what the receiver market's been, man. Like these dudes just get changed. They get chunks of change every year. And so, is it an overpay? Probably. I don't think they were comfortable letting him walk. And so, especially with the trade for Pittman that we'll talk about soon, like I think that they had to get the deal done. I think they wanted to get the deal done. It was something they were comfortable with. Man, he got a bag though. Another guy that got a bag, Wan'Dale Robinson. The contract, the player, all of this seems eerily similar to the Ridley deal from a couple years ago. They play the same way. They got a very similar contract. I think it's 4 year 103 for Wandale. It was 4 year 96 for Ridley. And so now you have those two guys on the same team. I like Wandale. I think he played really well last year. He's a good receiver, and these Titans, I feel like a lot of the ways that they've gone about free agency the last 2 seasons is overpaying for holes that didn't necessarily need to be filled. That's what they did with Dan Moore. That's what they're doing with Wandale. It's going to be interesting to see how those contracts turn out over the next few years.
Yeah, I think that this is the Jeremiah Love spot now
Yeah, I
that you
agree.
added the wide receiver. It's not going to be Carnell Tate anymore. Will be interesting to see what they do in the edge market. They made some moves today, so I really am pinpointing that. I'll talk about Shaheed real quick. If you're going to miss out on Walker, you had to sign Shaheed, and the Seahawks got it done. 3 years, $51 million. Slight overpay, maybe, but he won us the Super Bowl with his play and his kick returns. That had to get done, and I'm super hyped for them. A little shocking move today was the Mike Evans going to
Yeah.
the Niners. Very shocked by that. Pete, do you think that works? That's a 3 year deal for what, $60 million?
Yeah, it's a lot of money for an old receiver and an offense that I don't know. Like, he doesn't really match the yak stuff that Shanahan loves to do. Like, I don't know if he's gonna fit that offense that well. Hate to argue with Shanahan and the guy that he picks out, but this is an old receiver. It feels like it could be a Derrick Henry thing. When he got paid for the Ravens, I was like, man, that's a lot of money to an old running back, and he just proved me wrong. And Mike Evans absolutely can prove me one wrong the way he did. This one, I'm really skeptical. This was not my favorite signing of the day for sure.
You have a few former 49ers receivers still on the board at 8 and 9, respectively. I think Debo Samuel is going to be a Miami Dolphin. They need that type of playmaker, and I think that that's a really good spot for him, especially in a rebuilding wide receiver room for that Dolphins team. I have Jawan Jennings going to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know why. It's just they need to upgrade their room, and there's really nobody better. I'm really interested to see where Romeo Dobbs goes. I had him going to the Patriots. Pete on, we'll talk about Tyreek Hill real quick. Is there a landing spot that you have him going to?
I think it's got to be the Chiefs. I feel like there's no one else is going to give him the money that you or he's going to be looking for. Miami obviously moved on because they felt like he was taking up too much money for the play that they were going to get back. Like we've talked about before, you and me see this differently. I see an older receiver that's used his speed and is now coming off an ACL, isn't going to be as athletic as he was before, and is going to want a lot of money. And the only place I'm really seeing that's going to give him that is Tyreek Hill. I think they're obviously loading up on assets. They're obviously loading up on receivers and running backs. Kelsey came back today, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and I feel like this is the next domino to fall for them.
Speaking of Kelsey and the Chiefs, we'll move on to the tight end segment. And yes, that deal got done. Another season, 14th season, where Travis Kelsey will be a Chief. I don't think that shocked any of us. That was the only way it could have happened. Looking down memory lane here, Kyle Pitts, obviously, franchise tag, that was supposed to happen. But a shocking one of the day, Isaiah Likely to the Giants. How do you feel about that one as a whole?
I don't know. I'm a little iffy about it. It's a lot of money. What was it, 3 years? What was it, 51? Is that right? I think it was about in that range. I mean, it's a lot of money for a tight end who's never been a tight end one before. I like, again, it's like we talked about with the Saints. I'm always gonna, the idea of getting your young quarterback more weapons is always going to be a plus for me. Like I like the idea. Neighbors coming off an injury, Scatterby coming off an injury. There's a lot of question marks. It could work out really well. It could be a little iffy next year, and you get somebody that you know is going to be able to produce in the receiving game. And so I like the move. It's money. They had a little bit of money to throw around, and I trust that this is going to work out really well. I think right now it seems like an overpay. I think at the end of next year we could be looking back and be like, man, that was a really great signing.
Yeah, you talk about a reunion with John Harbaugh, of course. I'll talk about two reunions that I think will happen. I do think Zach Ertz makes his way back to the Eagles. I think it'll be a short-term deal, fill a gaping hole that I think Dallas Goedert will not fill because he's not going to be an Eagle anymore. We'll talk about that in a second. I do think Taysom Hill is going to be a Bronco. Pair him back up with Sean Payton. And of course, I think that David Njoku may be heading his way to the Falcons, and they may run two tight end sets. Of course, pairing him back with Kevin Stefanski. Peter, we'll talk about Dallas Goedert here. He's still on the board. He's one of the better tight ends in this class. Is there a spot that you're really looking at him for?
Um, I think he's going to be an Eagle again. I think he'll be back next year. I know there's some frustrations he seems like was happening there. I think AJ Brown is going to get moved, and I think Goddard will come back at that point. I would be pretty surprised to see him in any other uniform next year. For some reason, I feel like that one's going to end up right back where we started with him as an Eagle.
So you mentioned AJ Brown. Is there a spot that you're looking at for him?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be a Patriot. I think that the reason they traded Diggs was to make room for the AJ Brown trade. I think that they knew that they couldn't have both of them at the same time. Those are two guys that like their targets and like to be the wide receiver one. It doesn't make any sense for them to get rid of him when he was the clear-cut wide receiver one, which means that they're either drafting one at 31 or they're going to trade for AJ Brown. And I believe they're trading for AJ Brown.
Fair enough. We had a few more moves. Cade Otton went back to the Bucks. Tyler Higbee back to the Rams. Noah Fant, underrated one, going to the Saints. And yeah, I mean, this tight end class will definitely be interesting. Still have Chig Okonkwo on the board. Still have Darren Waller. Should be interesting to see. There were some lower rated tight ends that didn't make this list that got signed today to pretty big contracts. So good for those guys. But we'll talk about a offensive tackle class as we switch gears here that didn't make any headways today. And I'm really shocked. There were only two guys on our top 12 list that signed contracts. It was Jermaine Illuminor and Braxton Jones, and they were both re-signings, which is
Yeah.
shocking to me. Pete, how do you feel about this offensive tackle class as a whole? We know that you don't really like it, but are you shocked that no moves were made today?
I am shocked because we have a track record of the NFL just looking past that and upgrading these players and paying them to standards that they shouldn't be. We've seen that multiple times in the previous slide. We'll see it some of the next few slides. But I am I'm like kind of proud of the NFL. Like Like, good job, guys. Like, y'all are starting to figure it out. Like, these players don't need to be paid what you're paying them. And like some of these franchises are starting to figure out, like, okay, these aren't um, really high quality starters, and we're not going to pay them what they're asking because these agents are telling these teams, like, no, he's the top offensive tackle available. Pay him like it. Like, give him the Dan Moore contract. And these teams are like, no, I'm not doing that. He's not worth that. And so I am surprised because I figured this would go differently, but this is how this should have gone. This is the correct way for these NFL teams to handle it.
I know we were going back and forth on text. We didn't know what to put for landing spots for these guys because we it's hard to pick and we don't really know what's going on. I'll talk about something else though in the offensive tackle market. We heard today that Trent Williams may be available. What does that mean? And do you think is there a suitor for him or is there a spot that you're looking for?
I thought it would be a Bear. I thought he'd be a Bear next year. I thought that's where he'd end up. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. Um, um, what's a good spot for him? I don't know. I think the Niners are going to be asking a lot. They don't love to sell their players. They don't. I don't. They don't typically get rid of guys for a high value, and so someone, if Larry Tunsil got what, a third and a fourth, like Trent Williams probably wouldn't get more than a second and a fourth or a second and a third. And so I don't think the Niners are going to be ready to give that up. They have question marks at a lot of positions on the offensive line already. And to give up, he might still, I think he's still, he won't be very long, but still top three tackle, top five tackle in the league as of right now. And so to give that up in a year that, as long as Shanahan's the coach, you're always going to have a shot. I know you don't like to hear that as a Seahawks fan. I think he's the best coach in the NFL, one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I highly doubt they're going to sell him for the price that teams are going to be offering.
He would probably be the best free agent available if he did get released. That's how good Trent Williams is. We'll talk about another guy who's super good. That's Tyler Linderbaum, and he got a bag today in this interior offensive line class from the Raiders, who made splashes everywhere,
Everywhere.
especially on defense. And you'll see that in the next few segments. But man, Tyler Linderbaum to the Ravens, or to the Raiders. How do you feel about that?
I like it. I like it. I mean, we'll talk about the Crosby trade, in another episode. I like the Crosby trade. I like the Linderbaum signing. Like, protect this young quarterback. And they did. He now is the best center in football. And now Jackson Powers Johnson can move to a guard spot where, like, I think he's going to be good there. You trust you have a healthy left tackle coming back. That makes a solidified offensive line, a much better offensive line than Cam Ward had last year, a much better offensive line. Like, you're protecting this young quarterback. I like the move a lot. I did not like the Zion Johnson contract. That was a bag for a player that the Chargers had a weak interior offensive line last year and let him walk because they was not worth the money that he was asking. And they paid him so much money. I understand that they have no one returning on that offensive line next year. They have not a lot of bodies. They needed bodies. I don't think that was the price point I would have been offering Zion Johnson. I agree that he was probably someone that should have been on their board. That was way too much money for me. I did not like that contract.
I do like the spot though at the Browns. They
Yeah,
needed
I
it
agree.
desperately. It's a
I
really good
agree.
spot for him. But yeah, contract wise, I'm not a fan. Connor McGovern going back to the Bills. No surprise there. He was a really good guy. They were going to either keep Edwards or McGovern. Edwards ends up going to the Saints. That's an interesting one. Isaac Semalo going to the Cardinals. Very interesting as well. Risner signing back with the Bengals. John Simpson reuniting with his former team, the Ravens. Cade Mays going to the Lions. I'm a little shocked that AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, did not get signed today. And I still think that he's going to be a Charger. Peter, and is there a spot for you that you think he's going to go? And are you shocked at all that he did not get signed today?
No, I think the bidding's going up for him. I think he's going to get a little bit lower than a Linderbaum number. Like, yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of money. I like the inside outside flexibility. A lot of people like him as a guard. I think he can play tackle. He played well at tackle when the Jets asked him to at times. Like, I think that there's a lot of upside there. And I think that yes, he's hurt on injuries. This is a guy that's played well when he hasn't been injured. I think a team's going to be really interested in him. And I think that the only reason he didn't sign is because there's multiple teams that are going to be offering him a lot more money tomorrow.
Very, very interesting. We'll talk about, franchises that offered people a ton of money as we move to the defensive segment.
Yeah.
specifically the edge rushers, where Jalen Phillips to the Panthers. I was not expecting that on my bingo card. I know you were expecting the Odafe Owe deal to the Commanders, but I was not expecting Jalen Phillips to the Panthers at all. How do you feel about that move today?
I like it. It's a lot of money. When thinking about the Odafe pick to the Commanders, I thought it would happen. I thought it'd be less than that. $100 million for him. It's what we knew this was gonna happen. Like these edge rushers with the upside that Phillips and Owe can bring. Owe athletically, it's more of a like, okay, what can you be? Phillips is like, okay, can you stay healthy? And the upside that you bring on that aspect of things, like there's such high upside for those two players. And so to both of them to get the contracts that they got isn't surprising. I just know that those like teams were just like, I have to have this player. I need this player on my defense, especially the Commanders. That one made a bunch of sense. They need edge rusher. They need a lot of positions on that defense, and they got some positions on that defense. And I think that's a big, big check mark. I think that they made a really good signing. The Panthers did too. Those are two good signings.
Panthers made really good moves all day. Talk about a little bit of an overpay for me. Boye Mafe to the Bengals was 3 years, $60 million for a guy who's really only been a rotational edge piece. He's really gonna have to make that jump now that Hendrickson's probably not returning. Joseph Osai went to the Jets, so this is their big move, the Bengals, and hopefully he can step into that role. I think he can. He's definitely more than capable, but for obviously the production as a rotational guy, I mean, they're trusting really those early years of production from Mafe. He didn't have the greatest year because we had so many pass rushers this year, but it'll be super interesting to see. I think it's interesting that Trey Henderson still is on the board. I'm interested to see where he goes. He could really go anywhere, and he may be one of those kind of veteran guys. We've seen it all the time. These Pro Bowl, all pro players who kind of go unsigned during free agency, like Jalen Ramsey's and the Xavier Howard's from years ago. Like they just sit there and you're like, what's going on? He's such a great player. It's a very weird league that we play in. Kawiti Pay and Malcolm Kuntz going to the Raiders. Really good moves for the Raiders all around. I can't complain at all. Are you shocked at all that Joey Bosa is still on the board?
No, I'm not. I think you're talking about with the Hendrickson thing, the Bosa thing, these older players tend to start high and work low. And with an Owe thing, I expect it's more of like a blank check type of situation, and they're more listening than they are telling. And with older players, it's more, this is what I'm asking for. Are you going to meet there? Then they'll work their way down. And so, not surprised with either of those players. I think both are in the mix to be a buck. I would be shocked if one of those two do not end up in Tampa Bay next year.
Bucks definitely need edge badly. Bradley Chubb is still on the board as the number 4 rated edge in our mock predictions. And then Caleb on Chasen, number 9 there. Cameron Jordan, number 12. We'll move on to the interior defensive line class. It was mediocre as we saw it. It's always hard to go landing spots for these guys. We got a few guys that we can talk about today. John Franklin Myers ended up going to Tennessee, and Draymond Jones to the Patriots. Rankins ends up reuniting with that Texans team, and Tonga is now a Chief. Is there anything you're circling from this class?
Not really. I think it was a priority for the Texans to bring Rankins back. There's just not a lot of depth on that interior. I think that they wanted to bring him back. I'm glad that they met at a number. They needed some guys. For next year, John Franklin Myers to the Titans. I like the move. I like having more guys on the defense, especially in that 3-4. I think he fits that system really, really well. Other than that, though, still got some guys we need to get off the board in the next few days. This was an underwhelming class as it is. Nothing too shocking here.
Yeah, we won't spend too much time in it. Calais Campbell still is out there. Number 5 interior defensive lineman on our board. Should be interesting. DJ Reader, too, could be an impact player. That's really all I see from this interior defensive line class. But we'll move to the linebackers who had a really, really, really busy day today. Most recently, actually, it was like 30 minutes ago, Devin Lloyd just signed 3 years, $45 million to the Panthers. Really like that move, but we have to talk about the loss Vegas Raiders double dipping with two of the best linebackers in this class, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. Pete, on what does this say? Well, first, how do you feel about the move, and what does this say about what the Raiders are trying to accomplish on defense?
I love it. Like it's another Raiders move that I'm with. And for such a long time with the Raiders, it's like that's a terrible move. That's a terrible move. That's a terrible pick. Like they've made some awesome moves lately. They've done a really, really great job. These are two really good signings. We've talked about it before. They had holes not only at every level of the defense, especially with trading Crosby at every position, almost every 11 guy. Every 11 guy is definitely upgradable, and most of them need to be upgraded if you're going to have a pretty good defense this year. And they checked a lot of boxes. They checked a good at edge rusher, and they got two really good linebackers that are going to contribute at a high level immediately. Both will do very different things for you at that second level, and I think both are going to contribute really, really well.
We got a few other guys who found some new spots today. Alexander Zaloni going to the Bucks, very intriguing. I really like that move. Demario Davis ends up going to the team that drafted him, third round. That's the New York Jets. And Quincy Williams, the former Jet, ends up going to the Browns. Obviously, Justin Schnard, he is a Denver Bronco once again. But Devin Bush, the All-Pro from last year, the second team All-Pro, is a Bear. Pete, you're a Bears fan. How do you feel about that move?
I'm stoked about it. I loved when the signing popped up on my screen. I love the contract. I think it was a great price for both sides. I think he's going to go. He's going to play really well in that kind of aging linebacking room, and he's going to contribute immediately, be there for a couple of years. I really, really love the pick. I mean, the draft. I mean, signing. Sorry.
You're good. Can't complain about that. We got a few good studs still on the board. Leo Chenal, Caden Ellis, Matt Milano. Have to talk about Bobby Wagner. He was unsigned today. No shock. This is usually what happens with veteran guys. But is there a landing spot? There's probably only a few for him that he will actually play for that he really can thrive in.
Yeah, he'll be a commander again. I think that they're not gonna let him walk. There's not a lot of depth in that linebacking room or anywhere on that defense. They're gonna meet at a price. No one's gonna pay this dude top dollar as a 36-year-old linebacker. Um, they're gonna want him in that room. They're gonna want his presence in that room. I think they're gonna get it done.
That's going to be really cool to see. We'll move on to the corners who made some headways today in a little underrated ways. Jamel Dean is a Steeler, which is, I think, a really, really, really good move for them. Jalen Watson, the second Ram cornerback to come from the Kansas City Chiefs this week. He is going to, yeah, pair up with that defense as the Rams try to really go all in. I want to talk about Alontae Taylor. He is a Tennessee Titan. Pete, how do you feel about that move?
I like it. I like that they're investing, in that defense. And I like the moves. They feel calculated. The Titans feel like they're doing a really good job this offseason with the guys that they're bringing in. I think they overpaid on a lot of these things, but they feel like they're going to be high floor guys at all of the positions they brought in. They're going to come in and they're going to give good snaps immediately. And I think that that's what they're looking for right now. I'm interested to see what their draft strategy looks like. Are they going to take some more bigger swings in the draft because they're playing it very safe in free agency? It's kind of a tangent, but just, the first thing that pops into my head, I like the signing a lot.
Yeah, Cordell Flott also going to the Titans as the third Giants player today that Dable kind of recruited to his new team. We had a few re-signings. Josh Jobe going back to Seattle. Love that move. 3 years, 24 million. Very cheap for a stud cornerback. Monterey Brown, they call him Buster, out in Jacksonville. He'll be returning to that Jacksonville Jaguars team. Eric Stokes, once again, will be a Raider. Pete, of the available free agents. You have Nashawn Wright, Tyreek Woolen, Rasul Douglas, Kobe Durant, and Greg Newsome. Who is the guy that you're shocked did not get signed today?
Shocked. I don't know if I'm necessarily shocked by any of these players. I feel like the Tariq Woolen one is similar to the AVT conversation. I feel like his price is just going up, and I feel like tomorrow they know that there's going to be more teams that are going to be offering him more money. It's not going to surprise me when that contract comes across our phones, and it's a really, really big one for Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, I mean, I just see Commanders written all over him. They need it bad, especially after releasing Marshawn Lattimore. You got a few guys here. I don't really know what Nation Wright's market is going to be. If he goes to a contender or not. Kobe Durant, does he go back to the Rams? I don't think so anymore because they've been, wiping
Yeah.
house with what that cornerback room looked like from
Yeah.
before. It's going to be super interesting to see. We'll move on to the final segment, the safeties. Cam Curl, he got his contract a few days ago. But the big one from today, Kobe Bryant going to your Bears. Hate to see it. This was honestly out of all the Seahawks who left today and departed, obviously looking at Walker, obviously looking at Mafe, obviously the possibility of Woolen leaving and then us re-signing Job and Shaheed. I was frustrated as anything when I saw that they didn't even offer him or make any move for him. How do you feel about Kobe Bryant going to your Bears?
I obviously like the player. I think this is a good fit. I think he's going to go well on that defense. I'm surprised. This one definitely surprised me. I did not have it on my bingo card that they would be paying a safety this much money outside of the other two. I thought that they would definitely be retaining one of the safeties that were walking in free agency. And I didn't think they were going to go external with the safety, but they did. I like the move. I think it's a good move. I like the player. I like the contract. I just this one caught me off guard for sure.
For sure. We had Brian Cook going to the Bengals, Jalen Thompson going to the Cowboys, Reed Blankenship, a really good move, going to the Texans. You still have a few studs on the board. Obviously, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard still there from that Bears team. You have Alohi Gilman, like you really liked him. Um, Out of all the guys still on the list, is there a guy that you think is better than the rest?
I'd want Brisker. If you gave me a shot at any of these guys, I think I like the age. I like what he has left to give. I think that if I had to choose from any of these guys with all the same contract, he would be the guy that I'd go for.
It'll be really cool to see the next few days. Obviously, this was just day one, and all of this stuff becomes official on Wednesday when the new league year starts. We thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us, the special edition of Free Agency, as we talk to you guys about everything that was tampered today and what we think will happen the next few days. As always, stay tuned for more updates. We got big boards coming this week. We still have positional rankings for offensive NFL draft studs. We got a lot of stuff coming, and of course, mock draft season is upon us the minute that free agency ends. We cannot believe it. We cannot wait. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.